Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The great mantra for deliverance. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's so much to do. When chanting Hare Krishna, so many possibilities open up for service to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Don't even know where to begin. Hare Krishna, Krishna. I guess just begin with the chanting. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. So let's read a verse from the Bhagavad-gītā as it is by Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This is chapter 2. And Krishna has begun to speak the transcendental knowledge to Arjuna, who's overwhelmed by material attachments to his family members. And so Krishna's going to be bringing him to the point of complete freedom from those attachments, which will allow him to do what he needs to do in service to Krishna. So there's 18 chapters. This is chapter 2. And it's text 26. Krishna is explaining the nature of the soul, how it's invisible, it's inconceivable, it can't be changed, and it's different from the body, the outward body. So this is text 26. Krishna speaking to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. Atha cainaṁ nitya-jātaṁ, nityam va manyase mṛtam, tathāpi tvam mahā-bāho, nainaṁ śocitum arhasi. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament, Almighty Art. So Krishna is saying the soul doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end, it's completely different from the material energy, It's not born, it doesn't die. But then he says, if you think the soul is born and then dies along with the body, still you have no reason to lament. It is temporary. Even if you think the soul is temporary, there's no reason to lament. Prabhupada's purport. There's a class of philosophers almost akin to the Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Kṛṣṇa spoke the Bhagavad-gītā, it appears that such philosophers existed. And they were known as Lokāyatikas and Vaibhāṣikas. These philosophers maintained that life symptoms, or soul, take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. Okay, so here we are. This is a very widespread way of looking at things in our time, and that was 5,000 years ago. The modern material scientists and material philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. Which is, well, why don't we see that happening now? Why don't we go outside in the garden and then just see a lump of dirt all of a sudden start walking around? Why don't we see that? Well, they may say it was prehistoric, the atmosphere was different, the ultraviolet rays were such and such, and it created an atmosphere back in antiquity that the first life form came, and then everything evolved from that. Now, Satiputta is a mathematician, devotee. He's gone now, he disappeared several years ago, but his writings and his studying, he addressed these issues mathematically. He said it's impossible. It's impossible, mathematically. Math is a perfect science. And it's impossible, mathematically. But they believe it. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. That's why they're already digging up bones. And currently, many pseudo-religions, now become fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as well as to the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. What I understand, Buddhism is, there may be God or there may not be God, but it doesn't matter. Just become enlightened. Something like that. I guess my father was like that. I was asking him, I went through a very intense period of searching as a young adult, and I said, how do you understand God? He thought very deeply for a few minutes, and he said, well, yes, he exists, but he's over there somewhere, and I'm over here, and I don't bother him, and he doesn't bother me. So it really doesn't matter if he's there or not. He's over there, I'm over here. I don't bother him, he doesn't bother me. Krishna. That changed later as life took its toll and there were many hardships. He began to, maybe he would refer to God as that boy upstairs. He also engaged in some service and had the books in the house, and he was exposed to Krishna. He didn't fight it off anymore. Hare Krishna. He had the good fortune that as he was leaving his body, I could spend pretty much close to his final hours reading Sri Ishopanishad. and reassuring him that he was loved both by me and by God. And he became very peaceful. So, but this philosophy is that the soul is born when the body is born. The soul dies when the body dies. If we take a look at some of the understanding of Christians, is they believe the soul is created when the body is created, and when the body dies, then the soul either goes to heaven or goes to hell. But they kind of like have half of this. The idea of transmigrating and being eternal and taking lifetime after lifetime to try to progress on the devotional, spiritual, transcendental path, that I don't hear it discussed much there. Some of the mystical Judaism, they get it a little bit more, that the soul is not born, the soul is eternal. They get that. But this is the clearest, these scriptures are the clearest explanation. They make the most sense. They're, Prabhupada compared this knowledge in these books to like sometimes in the library they have a big Oxford dictionary and explains in great detail each word, where it came from, how many different usages and meanings, how it's pronounced, and to a small pocket dictionary that, it'll tell you one or two meanings. So this knowledge is the most complete, the most thorough. So Prabhupada continues, even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhāṣika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. So even if we are just a bag of chemicals, what's there to lament over? On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. Prabhupada's is a kind of sarcasm sometimes. Well, the body's just a bag of chemicals. Well, they're wasting so many chemicals in warfare. According to the Vaibhāṣika philosophy, the so-called soul, or atma, vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So, in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, which is invisible, unchangeable, very, very small particle, or whether he did not believe in the existence of such a soul, he had no reason to lament. Who laments over a bag of chemicals? According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter at every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished at every moment, there's no need to grieve for this incident. However, since he was not risking rebirth of the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. So if the soul is not eternal and it dies when the body dies, and he wins the kingdom and he kills everybody, then there's no sinful reactions, because it's over when the body is over. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as mahā-bāho, mighty-armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of Vaibhāṣikas, which leaves aside Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Don't you just love Bhagavad-gītā? Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.